In a world of espionage, trust is a luxury. Our mogul, Zasakorda, thought he could buy loyalty until an assassination attempt left him questioning everything. Now, facing betrayal and corporate sabotage, he must lean on the only person he's ever heard, his estranged daughter Liesel. From train cars to private jets, from bombs to cyanide, every step is a miniature war, with a cast of characters from nun to notary to North African bug obsessives, blended with bizarre visions of heaven and hilarious betrayals. This is not your typical spy movie. Directed, written, and co-produced by Wes Anderson. Co-written with Roman Coppola, featuring Benicio del Toro as Corda, Mia Trapleton as his conflicted daughter, Michael Cera, Riz Ahmed, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, Benedict Cumberbatch. Even Bill Murray plays God. The Phoenician Scheme, a dark comedy espionage puzzle box where every move is suspicious, every frame is a painting, and every scheme hides a secret.
Welcome to the Burnt or Buttered podcast.
Welcome!
And I'm not sure who my guest is here today.
I am Oslo Toast.
Oslo Toast?
See, from Oslo, Norway.
Is that like rye or
Rye? Like the whiskey?
rye like bread? You know, is that sourdough or like
No, it's Norway. Like the Vikings.
Viking toast? Is that
Viking toast if you want.
Is this just an act or?
Yes, a little bit, but my normal person is much like this.
Okay, well, can we see the normal person?
Oh, sure. Okay. What's up? I'm Toast.
What's up, bro? I'm Toast.
Yeah, see, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, you can't really tell much of a difference, right? It's like the same guy.
No, Viking toast is the exact same as this toast.
So anyways, welcome to Burnt or Buttered. Today we're here to talk about Wes Anderson's new flick, The Phoenician Scheme.
The Phoenician Scheme.
And, my glasses are kind of integral to the look, so...
And you can't see without them. But anybody that has gone to see this movie, or if you haven't seen this movie, obviously this is a Wes Anderson film. And I mean, it does deliver on the Wes Anderson side of a film.
If you're looking for a movie that says, Wes Anderson created me, this is a movie like that.
Yeah, I feel like Wes Anderson decided, okay, I'm going to take every single thing that I've ever done in any of my movies, and I'm going to put it into this one.
Yeah, including, but not limited to, not just the good things, but also some of the not so great things.
Yeah. I'll be honest, like I had high expectations going in this movie. Like some of Wes Anderson's films are some of my favorite films, at least in my top 10.
Sure. Yeah.
Moonrise Kingdom, freaking really, really good. And so going into this, from the trailer, it looks like a Wes Anderson film, but it looks like there's so much to it.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is going to happen? This looks crazy. There's all these different scenes. There's all these different cuts. There's like a weird looking knife that you see in the trailer. Like, how is this all going to work? And the first 20 minutes of the movie, I was like, yeah, this is a step up. You know, I'm liking this. This is interesting. But I wasn't drawn in like I was for what's the
newspaper one, the French Dispatch.
The French Dispatch. Like the French Dispatch just drew you in so heavy, like with the introductions of the scenes. Like you just had the static frame. All of a sudden you have a story going on in the static frame that just builds and builds and builds and builds. And I feel like he tried to do that in this movie, but it just felt less good than it normally is. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't that it was bad.
Yeah.
It just was less good.
I think I almost don't want to say that it's bad because I really enjoyed watching it. And I like Wes Anderson. I like his style. I like the whimsy, you know. I don't know many other directors who could make so many plane crashes like whimsical, you know, and like there's no dangerous feeling in it. It's just like a fun ride, you know. But to your point, I think that his style is becoming so homogenous with himself that you're having a hard time distinguishing the movies, you know, like this one kind of just blends in with all of his other filmography.
Yeah, it's definitely not distinct, you know. And I feel like the story was lacking in this one. Like the French Dispatch, it's rich in story and like the characters are so interesting and dynamic. And this one, the characters just did not have that dynamic feel to them. Like they felt like it was a monotone tone. You met them, and the only character that had any real change throughout
was Michael Cera.
Was Michael Cera. And that was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
You know?
It really was, you know, and the transformation, you knew exactly what was happening and exactly how it was going to look when he turned around, aside from the mustache that he didn't have before he turned around. But like the way that they did it and the time that it took, and then him turning around and just thinking like, I'm pretty hot stuff now. You should admire this, you know? It just worked so well.
If I had any notes to Wes Anderson, which I shouldn't have any notes for Wes Anderson. But what would have got me, and like I would have loved it, is if Michael Cera, when he went to go change his character, he turned around and it was Timothée Chalamet.
It would have been funny. It would have been funny, but it would have changed the trajectory of the whole movie, you know, and it would have just made it a little bit too cheesy, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Timothée Chalamet has been in some of his other films. I know. And so it would have made sense in the universe of his films. Yeah,
I just think it would have pushed it into the cheese factor a bit too much.
Yeah. But I also think, I don't know, Michael Cera did a great job. But if he would turn around and it was Timothée Chalamet, it would have blew everyone's minds.
Yeah.
And it would have been hilarious. And then the continuation of that character could have gone differently.
Yeah, totally different. But I like how he did it.
I mean, it was good. I enjoyed how he did it no matter what. But as he turned around and just the look of him, it looked like Timothée Chalamet's character.
Like which I think was part of it, you know, that made it so funny was that instead of him looking so much better, it's just him looking the same, you know, pretty much.
Yeah. But there were slightly funny parts in the movie. I did like his kids. I liked the crossbow. I liked, you know, him just not reacting, but also reacting to his kids being crazy.
Me, I feel perfectly safe. There are a lot of recurring things that, you know, between him and...
Well, and that he couldn't die. Yeah. You know, he has all these assassination attempts. The plane goes down. My question is, so the pilot, he ejects from the plane. Why didn't he eject himself from the plane? Why did he fly the plane to the ground? If he had an ejector with a parachute, why not just eject yourself? That's the safer way.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I don't know. I guess because the pilot was fired and the pilot goes down with the ship. I don't know.
I don't know. The opening scene. What did you think about the opener? With him in the tub, the nurses coming in and taking care of him and going through the entire cast as they show up.
I think it was cool. For me, it lasted a little bit too long. But the overhead shot and him just sitting in the tub and everybody just waiting hand and foot on him, it was a pretty fun way to explore that character, I guess.
Yeah. I went back and forth with it. I do think that it went a little bit too long because I found myself just wanting it to be over. I thought, oh, this is cool. This is a cool shot. I like how, the graphics are coming in, but there was just so many. And
yeah,
I was going back and forth between looking at the scene and reading the names and looking at the scene, reading the names. And it just was enough times of what am I supposed to be paying attention to here that I was just wanting it to be over.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe if it hadn't been in slow motion.
Was it in slow motion too?
Yeah, it was kind of slow motion, I think.
I don't know. It was interesting the things that they were bringing him. It definitely was interesting, but it was just
the champagne and the bidet and stuff.
Yeah, but it was probably 45 seconds too long, at least.
Yeah,
it was at least 4 minutes.
It felt long. Yeah, it definitely felt long. I feel like I liked all the characters. Benicio del Toro's character, Zasakorda, took me a little bit of time to like.
Yeah, it was a slow burn for him, and I do feel like you're supposed to see him from the perspective of his daughter. And so at the beginning, he's this cold, callous guy that you don't really like, and then slowly he starts adding a little bit more flavor.
And have you seen the Royal Tenenbaums?
No, I haven't.
So he kind of reminded me of Bill Murray's character in that one. Royal Tenenbaums, basically, rich guy has these children and a ex-wife that he wants to get to come back to him. But he's been such a piece of crap his whole life that they won't come back until he tells them that he's dying. So this whole time they're just around him because they think that he's dying. And then it turns out he just said that so that they would come. And anyways, he just seems like a piece of crap the whole time. And then in the end, he is just a piece of crap the whole time. So I thought that that's how Benicio del Toro's character was going to be. Just a fun piece of crap.
And Wes Anderson said that his character was loosely based off of his father-in-law. And so he probably couldn't have kept him a piece of crap.
Made him a jerk the whole time. Yeah.
It
makes you wonder how many assassination attempts has his father-in-law survived, and why is he an arms dealer?
Probably. That's how Wes Anderson got his money. Who knows? What's funny is I had never really looked up Wes Anderson, what he looked like, and he looks like his movies.
Yeah, he's kind of a weird looking dude.
I don't know if he's really weird looking. He just looks like a character that would live in his films.
Yeah.
If you took a picture of Wes Anderson and said, ChatGPT, create a film that looks like this person, it would be his movies.
They'd just create the Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah, just I think this would really match the style of this human. One person that I wish wasn't part of the cast, Tom Hanks.
Yeah, you said that. I feel like he did a good job. It was kind of reminiscent of his character in the Polar Express.
No. He literally is 15.
Because they were both on trains.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had mustaches.
He's like 15 characters in the Polar Express.
I know. He reminded me of all of them in this one.
His character in this one, it just did not feel like it belonged to me. It felt like he was a high school basketball coach, PE coach, not even basketball coach, PE coach. And he's supposed to be this mogul. This is like business.
People can be into more than one thing.
Yeah, I guess, but it just didn't make sense. Like it didn't feel like it lived in the world. He felt disconnected to me. You know, and Tom Hanks can do amazing things. I just think that in a Wes Anderson film, he didn't fit in. Thinking about it now,
it almost is a scene that you don't really need. You know, like
the basketball.
That whole train car sequence thing. Like I don't even know if you really need that. Like,
well, you have to do it for the gap. You know,
I know, but that scene could have been any number of things. You know, them meeting anywhere, them having whatever confrontation. You know, which I mean, they showed it in several different ways. It didn't have to be that one, but
yeah. I mean, it was weird, you know, but all of Wes Anderson's stuff is a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Tom Hanks in that one just bothered me.
I felt like he did fine, but just looking back on it, I feel like that's where you could have shaved some time off. But something else that was interesting was each person that they went to see about the gap, they would just say, I knew your mother.
Yeah.
They would never say anything beyond that. It would just, I knew your mother.
And maybe it's just to make her mom seem like really, really good. You know, that she was like a shining light, you know, type idea.
Except for, I feel like they would have followed it up with, we knew your mother. Oh, I loved your mother. You know, she was great. Say something, but they would always just say, I knew your mother.
I wonder if it was leading to the insinuation that your dad's not your dad. You know, like I knew your mother, but not talking about her dad at all.
I mean, even Benedict Cumberbatch, I believe, said, I knew your mother. So I'm almost wondering if maybe her mom got around or something. I don't know.
I knew your mom in the biblical sense.
Which then also Zaza was saying, you know, she knew about his affairs and she was fine with them. So that's why he didn't get upset about his, you know, the affairs that she was having with his brother.
And all these other businessmen. That's how he closed all the deals.
Potentially. I don't know. Maybe he's not that good of a businessman and his wife was.
Yeah. She was the one that was able to actually like get the deals done.
Maybe that's why he wants this daughter to take over. You know, she's a shrewd businesswoman. I don't know.
Woman of God.
We may never know.
All right. Well, let's put a freaking rating on this thing.
Okay. Like you said, I came into this with really high expectations because I like so much of Wes Anderson's movies. And I think this is one that will probably grow on me more as the next time that I watch it or as I continue to think about it. I really, really liked Michael Cera's character. I liked Mia Thrappleton's character, the nun. And I feel like there were a lot of really good characters, a lot of fun scenes when Benicio del Toro, pulls the pin on the grenade and he's like, this is how it's going to get done. Like, that was a fun scene. Everybody just being like, you're not going to do it. Like, we're just going to stay here because you're not going to do that. There were a lot of fun things about it. I don't think that it's necessarily, like you were saying, it's not one of his stronger films, out of all the things that he's done. I'd probably put it somewhere, middle-ish. So I'm going to give it a 3.5.
3.5. Yeah. I feel like this movie is not going to be a movie that grows on me. I don't know why. But there are those types of movies where you leave the movie theater and you're like, oh, I see what they were doing there, and I see what they were doing there, and oh, that adds a little bit more color than I thought, and like, oh, that was really, really smart, and that was shot really well. I think all those things happened in this film. They just weren't as good as his other films, and so that makes me not like it.
Yeah, high expectations.
But then I'm trying to think, if this was the first Wes Anderson film I ever watched, would I think it was amazing? And I don't think so. I just think that the characters didn't have enough color inside them to really make me dive into that character and care about it.
Yeah.
Where I feel like Wes Anderson usually does a really great job making that dynamic approach to his characters. And so I'm going to give this thing 2.88.
You're insane.
2.88. Yeah, I'm just basing this off of the genre of film. And Wes Anderson has, I'm basing this off of indie.
He has his own genre.
I'm saying Love Me and how do you say it? The
Phoenician Scheme.
The Phoenician Scheme. Love Me and the Phoenician Scheme in the same category. Love Me is 1,000 times better.
I think it's more of a thinker for sure. Like it's one that you could sit there and think about for days.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you would come up with something different, I think. Whereas this one, I think, is probably more entertaining than a thinker, you know?
I don't think so. I feel like Love Me was just as entertaining to me just because there's dynamic to it.
I think you need to rewatch it because there was a lot of Love Me that was like I was
just flat.
Well, that whole like influencer timeline thing that mostly made me annoyed. Anyways, not to talk about Love Me Forever because we already have a 20-minute episode on that. Go check it out.
Go check it out. It's one of our first ones. And so it will look completely different than this. Oh, by the way, we are set up in a different way. Should we keep this way? Should we not keep this way? We probably won't do what you say. But we're filling it out.
It's not that we don't respect your opinion. It's that Stetson doesn't respect your opinion.
We're trying out things all the time. We, this podcast is just finding its way right now. And so we're trying new things with the soundboard. We're trying new things with the setup. We're
trying new accents.
We're trying new accents. Toast is working on his Norwegian stuff. And it was pretty good.
Yeah, if we have any people from Norway watching, tell me how to pronounce things better.
All right. Well, we will see you in the next one. We also have a skit that we're going to be filming for this film, which is going to be fun. It's going to be a Wes Anderson disc golf match. So be on the lookout for that too.
Catch you on the next one.